Today on Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
Fencing, fighting, torture, revenge, giants, monsters, chases, escapes, true love, miracles. Oh, no, that's The Princess Bride.
It's time to take an inside look at those that are taking their lives, their businesses, and their passions to the next level. Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Here we go. All right. Welcome, everyone, to a special episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I am extremely excited today because today we're doing a Thrive Loud catch-up episode with someone who's been on this program before. She is the director and producer of Absurdity of Certainty, a surreal spiritual science documentary on the rise of the rigidity and polarization in the Western worldview, featuring Pari Center founders F. David Peat. She's a former author. She is got like some real cool tech skills. She's in the coolest place ever in the world, which for those that'll get a chance to see some video promo of this are going to see where she is. It's my favorite space in the world. I got to meet her a very long time ago on a radio program and got to learn that she's one of the funniest, coolest, hippest people you're ever going to come across. Thrive Loud listeners, it's been a while since we've had her back. Jena Axelrod. Jena, how are you today?
Lou, I am so excited to be here. Thank you for having me. It's great to see you again.
Listeners need to know she's literally jumping up and down. I'm not. She's bouncing. She's bouncing, keeping it all together. She's. I want to do this. I want to. First of all, I gave it like a little cliffhanger build up. Where are you connecting to me from? Where are you?
I am in Tuscany, in a little town called Pari, P-A-R-I. It's in the Grosseto province, and I've been fortunate enough to be coming here for 20 years to meet my mentor, physicist, philosopher, Dr. F. David Peat, who founded a school here called the Pari Center. And I'm also lucky enough to work now with and for the Pari Center, hosting things sometimes and helping with their social media, but it's a beautiful place and it brings a lot of really special people. And so I'm just so grateful to be here. It's where the film is set. And so,
yeah, which is amazing. And this is really cool. So dedicated listeners can go all the way back. I think I looked it up. I mean, Jena, we're like in the 600s of episodes. It's been over 3 years since that episode aired. How crazy is that? I mean,
that's amazing.
And at that time, you were very far along in the film process. So why don't we do this? Let's let the listeners understand a little bit about the concept. Let's bring them up to speed about what what the Absurdity of Certainty is about and where we're at in the process, because it's kind of cool.
Thank you. So Absurdity of Certainty, it's hard to be certain about what it's about, but
that's very true.
But it does several things. It's a surreal spiritual science film. So as our protagonist, David Peat, says, I thought we were talking about physics, but we're not. We're talking about the nature of consciousness. And he actually said that to his mentor at a million years ago, a physicist named David Bohm, who had a relationship with Krishnamurti. And so that these quantum physicists and Eastern spiritualists had the sense that their worldviews were similar is what first brought me to this town and inspired me to make this film. And so I think one of the things that the film does is to set some context for why the West seems to have lost the kind of wisdom you find that has remained alive in other cultures. So another connection to the film, there's Leroy Little Bear, who's a member of the Blackfoot tribe, the Cree, the Ojibwe, and the Blackfoot. They have a verb-based language. Mm-hmm. So they have a worldview that everything is constantly in change and flux and process. So our protagonist brought physicists to meet with them because they had a shared worldview. It turned out that the Indigenous Canadians had an easier time understanding quantum physics than students in university who spoke Western languages.
So I'm going to interject here, and this is a really funny story. After I had initially heard about your idea from the movie years ago, and then we had the podcast episode afterwards, my understanding of how stuck and how rigid the majority of us in this world are in the concept of time, the concept of like literally that we manage our day by a certain clock. We had to set a time to make this exact schedule that we're doing here. And that before we had all those kind of rules and things in place to standardize things, there was a world of stuff that didn't have that. And that opened my mind. I'll call myself an educated Western person, but I'm usually educated mostly by my amazing guests because I love learning about this stuff. You obviously were, I've only literally hit the tip of the iceberg on what I'm referring to, right? But I wasn't so wrong in saying what an unbelievable opening. And that's kind of how you wanted to dive into all of this, right?
That's absolutely correct. Because, and of course, what noon is in a non-abstracted world is when the sun is overhead. That's what noon is. And
right.
And noon would be different for all of us, even those in the same time zones. From town to town, noon would be different. But time became abstracted when we had to normalize time for the train schedules.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy, right?
It's really interesting. Yeah. So instead of the church bells ringing when the sun was over your head, it rang when the agreed upon noon arrived. The thing that's kind of interesting too is that even though the, perspective in art, the way people, draw a box, it's got a box on it to make the cube. So before we got so certain, we used to draw like lots of different events in time on the same frame. So it was okay to see a saint flying in to catch a child falling out of a window and then saving the child. And then like all these things in one frame.
Right.
But as we became more and more certain, perspective hit our art. And if you look at a painting drawn in perspective, it is the equivalent of covering one eye and looking at the world out a window. It is not the experience of being in the living world. It's
right.
the experience of a world out there, which is not the truth of the world that we actually live in, but our minds are creating this perception because we're culturally sharing this delusion that we live in a machine of separate cogs that can each be controlled individually, and that things are black or white, red or blue. And really, it's always the spectrum in between. Yeah. It's the process. It's the verb, not the noun.
So you're going to hear where I'm going to go with this, and you're going to be like, wow. When I first heard this, on the first time we had this conversation, I had trouble getting through living in a world of certainty and seeing outside of it. Become a podcast host for thousands of episodes, and you won't believe what will happen to your mind. But something even more fascinating happened, and it actually has to do with what's going on. I want to try to draw a parallel, let's just say, using the same canvas overlapping as you just did. We have a world that's been trying to break out of a lot of certain injustices, perceptions, ways things are, the way you describe a gender, the way you talk about a race, the way you should be thinking about all these things that are trying to break the mold of that frame you just described. At the time that you're putting together this documentary, listeners need to know she's bouncing up and down and nodding and yesing in the agreement. Can we talk about that parallel? And have you seen that? Because you're getting further along. We'll talk about the update of where the film's at. But there's something absurdly certain about what I just said about how uncertain things can be and what you're trying to get across. I got deep there. You didn't think I'd go there, Jena, did you?
I have faith in your depth. I completely agree with you. And to further your point, man, don't we all know how uncertain reality is now, right. after this shocking series of years that we've all lived through. And I know it's been a really hard time for a huge amount of us. So I know, it depends how we use these words, because I don't mean to say that we all feel very sure or secure, right? Because we don't. We're living, we really are living in uncertain, uncharted waters. And so what I'm talking about more is how we use our minds. And I do think that the younger generation already knows what it is we're trying to communicate here. I mean, that gender is a spectrum, that sexual identity and desire is a spectrum, that it's completely asinine to be fighting black versus white or red versus blue. I mean, remember, there used to be a time where wisdom from diametrically opposed points of view would be taken together to come up with a better thing, something better than both points of view.
Yeah.
And that, not to get too into the science, but Niels Bohr, who's of course a Nobel Prize winning quantum physicist from the 1900s, who brought everybody together for the Copenhagen interpretation, the most standard interpretation of quantum reality. They were like, what the heck? Light is behaving like a wave and like a particle. But in our certain and previous Newtonian way of doing things, those are opposites. That's like saying something's black and white. That can't be how reality is. And it was really torturing them. And I contend that they sort of had to do what enlightened masters have to do and learn how to contain two opposites. And Niels Bohr specifically came up with the concept of complementarity, whereby two seemingly oppositional explanations of a phenomena are the fullest way to describe that phenomena. And to further the point that he understood the depth of what that means for us in a practical sense, when Scotland chose to knight him, he was given, what symbol, Niels, do you want to adopt for your knighthood? And he chose the yin-yang. He knew
balance of both worlds put together. I like that.
Exactly. And Patanjali has a quote about enlightenment, 4,000, 2,000-year-old Patanjali, who wrote or spoke the Yoga Sutras, talked about an enlightened mind. He said, when opposing sensations cease to torment.
I like that. It makes it almost putting things at ease, I guess. So let's give me I hate doing this. I want to get to a little bit of certainty. Share with the listeners the journey of the film itself. And as the director, producer of this amazing project, share with where we last were. And I went back and listened to this. Where we last were was most of the filming, at least at that point, had been done.
Yeah.
Obviously, we also, right before we had done our interview, we had lost this legend who was the feature of the world, who was there.
Yeah.
And now what has happened? We've had a little bit of a hiccup with COVID in between, but tell the world what's been going on with this process for you in putting this project together.
That's a great question. So it's been hard for me to know throughout the years of working on this film when it would be done. And now it seems very clear that we're 3 months or so from done. We have a cut that experts are helping us perfect, and then the sound, color, and graphics come in, and we're literally done. But the journey, what happened was David Peat died, as you know, and it was not long after we filmed him. So we were just very lucky that we were able to capture his genius before he passed. But it made it really painful for me to interact with the footage because he was, in a lot of ways, like a father to me. At first he was 20 years ago when I first met him, he was this man on a mountaintop, like abstract. This is emblematic of the concepts of the film. He was this abstract idea that, and over time he became a real friend and father figure to me. And so when he passed, to look at the footage and interact, it was just so hard.
Yeah.
And then the Pari Center went ahead with the next conference that he had planned. And it was going to be a tribute to his mentor, David Bohm. And it turned out to also be a tribute to him. Mm-hmm. And so that was really helpful and beautiful and kind of shocking for me because all of the key people we met through David's stories. We're all there in the room. There were also real life people and, helping me conceive of how to push the film forward. And, since that time, the family, his daughter's one of my best friends. His wife is like a mother figure. I mean, it's just so this whole time we've been waiting for what is the emotional journey of the film that will allow a viewer to enjoyably watch, admittedly, some dense, heady footage.
Right.
And over the time since he's passed, that emotional journey has occurred in my life and in my interaction with the family and in my becoming like a core staff member of David's school.
It's kind of cool, by the way. And it's really cool, one, because again, I can't, Italy's one of my favorite parts of the world, and where you are is like literally so gorgeous. It's ridiculous. We're going to do another take of that thing afterwards. What for you, so we're a few months away from doing this, from it being completed. And then obviously we recognize in the absurdity of the certain world of craziness, getting people to learn about the film, market it, find the interest of it. How's that process been going, or what's next in that? Or are we just going to let the absurdity of certainty take its form?
Well, I have to thank you because now all of your beautiful listeners get to be aware of the film Absurdity of Certainty. We're all across social media and doing our best to post and attract the kind of people who'd be interested in this film. And the distribution process is to be determined. We're already submitting to film festivals and speaking to distributors. And so it's as unknown as every stage of this film has been. And I think
which is so which is awkwardly beautiful and weird about all the same sense of it. And with that point, by the way, we will put links in the show notes for all the listeners. We'll put clips to where they can learn more about the program and everything like that. And here's the thing that I've recognized. Okay, during the last year and a half of the quarantines, of the pandemic, of whatever stage you were at in whatever part of the world, there's a tremendous amount of content that just keeps coming. And I have found my range of what myself as a viewer am willing to watch has spread wild. I mean, from, crazy tiger zookeepers of the world to, to unique Queen's Gambit chess stories, to Israeli films, to, I mean, the breadth of what you could watch now with everybody's like, what am I watching? Where am I up to? I say that's the thing that gets me excited, because knowing you personally, but also understanding the uniqueness of this topic is probably going to pique the interest of a lot of people, let alone our listeners here who are already curious about this. But we're going to do something. Yeah, okay, go.
I just wanted to say thank you. And it's such a labor of love. And I really, at the heart of the whole thing is the world to me, it's not as it seems. And if we acknowledge that we're all connected, we're going to stop fighting in every way. And it's like, I really hope that I know that a million people are better at talking about physics, about consciousness, about spirit. I am not the expert in any field of any kind. But I really hope that we've put together the right people to get this story out there to help spread the word.
Awesome. Here's what we're going to do, because you've never done this. We do something now on the program, which is we go down a road of that's called Fun Street, where I ask you like a bunch of rapid fire questions, and it's the first thing that comes to your mind and you get to answer it. But these things are things that lift you up, motivate you, make you feel good, make you thrive. But before we do that, I have to share with the listeners one of my favorite lessons of all time. We briefly talked about this early on episodes. Jackie the Joke Man Martling has been a guest on the show. Ian Carr has been a guest on this episode, as has Jena. And I met Jena that day at the SiriusXM radio studios for Howard 101. We were doing Jackie the Jokehunt program, which Jena was a regular on when that show ran. And this is how kind this human being is. I had never been in a radio studio before, and I was positioned to sit next to this wonderful human being, and she showed me how to speak into a microphone. which is the craziest irony of a most absurd thing in the entire world. Because literally she's like, oh, no, this is how you use this, because these microphones were much more sensitive, much more different. And she was positioning me where I should be, where my voice should be. And I always think of you whenever I position a microphone.
I am so honored. That's really beautiful. And I was going to say, your microphone setup is more beautiful than the SiriusXM microphone.
Or the movie producer who's literally using wires and got cameras all over her really cool place, in Italy,
yeah, shout out
in
to
Tuscany.
Wireless Rode Go. I do recommend these. These are great for on the go. But anyway.
All right. So Jena's ready. So we'll do an update question here before we get to the speed round to get us warmed up here. Okay. I can't remember however many episodes it was if I asked you what your all-time favorite movie was. But let's do something more neat. What has been one of the more fun movies that you've seen over the last year and a half during this pandemic, or something that you've watched? It doesn't be a movie. It could be something that's connected with you.
Well, I have to say, when you made a vague reference to Tiger King, I have to shout out that I was in Brooklyn, and I left Brooklyn and went to a farm upstate with a bunch of friends after a couple of months. And one of the friends is the editor of Tiger King. So we got to watch that with the editor.
Holy
so that
cow.
was certainly a highlight to be sitting there. I mean, it's probably not good for my brand to say that was. but tell me that wasn't riveting.
That's unbelievable. Here's what I will say is that it sounds weird, but it feels like Tiger King was much longer ago than the beginning of the pandemic. And I think that's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah. And it's right on. I mean, they were one of the first viral releases of lockdown, right? When we thought we were going to be able to get out soon. Too.
Yeah. So it was mid-March, like literally, I think it came on in maybe late February, release into Netflix. But I mean, like you can go look at the trending on Netflix when it hit. I mean, everybody was talking about it because we weren't doing anything, and it was a trending show and the most ridiculous topic of conversation ever. So,
yeah. And my favorite stuff is stupid comedies. Stupid comedies is my genre, and people try to get me to watch.
Which stupid comedy is the one that always sticks out when you think of stupid ones?
I mean, I feel like I need to apologize to people because the answer is not very woke, but Airplane is like one of the tops of the list.
Yeah, without a doubt. Surely you can't be serious.
and don't call me Shirley.
Okay. So now we'll do the speed round here. And this is how this works. I'm going to ask you something. These lift you up, motivate you, make you feel good, make you thrive. First thing that comes to your mind, don't stress so much about it. Ready?
Okay.
Of late, a song that's kind of like your jam or something that pumps you up.
That's interesting. I have been listening to a lot of meditation stuff. So Krishna Das is like where it's at for me. Highly recommend Krishna Das.
All right.
Yeah.
A favorite food that's not a dessert.
Cheese of any kind. And if I have to get specific, I will say burrata, which I cannot purchase while I'm here in Italy because I will eat all of it.
A favorite dessert.
That is okay. Obviously, it's chocolate. I mean, it has to be. And I can't really even get more specific because I don't I don't even eat dessert like after a meal. I just occasionally require chocolate.
An activity you wish you did more of.
I guess I'm going to have to say yoga.
Okay.
I do a fair amount of running and fantasize about being more active with my yoga. An
activity you wish you did less of.
Ooh, I don't think I can say that on public air.
Yes,
well, let's see. Actually, being in Italy this town is so small. There's one bar, and we meet up regularly for gin and tonics. I can't really say that I wish I did less of it because it's really fun to meet in the town square and have a gin and tonic with the girls.
Sounds like you might want to do more of them, but anyway.
yeah, but I guess it should be the thing that I want to do less of, but I don't really want to.
Gotcha. If I could snap my fingers and you could be anywhere in the world, because time is just a variable and you can get anywhere you want.
Construct.
Where are you, Jena?
I need to go some places I've not been. So immediately my brain, I'm in India or New Zealand, and I don't know why. That was just first impulse.
It sounds good. I think you picked some pretty cool places. Okay, last question for you. Absurdity of Certainty. What are you looking forward to next with this incredible piece of your life, which is what it is?
It really is. It's been such a huge part of my life. What I would love to see happen is an absurdity movement where we can all come together and talk about what I think of as the reality of consciousness, of us sharing. We're sharing reality right here and now. It's the space between us is more important than us as separate individuals. And so I'd like there to be an absurd movement where we can go around and talk to each other about how we're really all connected and just need to just all love each other.
Thrive Loud listeners, I mic drop. I can't think of any other way to close out this program. One of my favorite people on this planet, Jena Axelrod, so great to have you back on the program and to see you in this very, very cool setting. And thanks for sharing your message here today.
Thank you for having me, Lou. I'm so honored that you would have me on again. And you look great. You look healthy and happy. And I'm glad
you look better. So listeners need to know she's literally holding her camera out as I'm looking out into Tuscany. It's gorgeous. It's summer. It's like, I guess, midday there. And oh my God, amazing. Great stuff.
It's so
Thank you for
nourishing.
coming on, Jena. Isn't
Thank
it like
you,
nursing?
Lou.
I'm like, let me in. I want to go in. I want to be there. Oh,
I'm so lucky the film is set here, right? I mean, couldn't be luckier.
Jena Axelrod, you rock. Great to see you.
You rock, Lou.
And to all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Check us out on the web at thriveloud.com and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud. And check us out on the Good Pods app at Thrive Loud, where you can follow, listen, and connect directly to Lou and all of the Thrive Loud episodes. Thanks for listening.